Good afternoon, everybody. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. I have another book to discuss with you guys. It's called Gang-Stalking and Mind Control: The Destruction of Society Through Community Spying Networks. This is going to be a good one. I haven't read it yet. What I did was I went through the book and I tabbed all of the chapters, and I'll show you what the chapters are. So if there are specific chapters that you'd like me to read in the future, please let me know in the comments section. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and it combats not only the cyber stalkers that immediately downvote the videos, but the YouTube algorithms that a lot of creators are talking about. So anyway, it's November 13, 2023. It's a beautiful sunny day in the neighborhood. It was in the mid-30s when I woke up this morning. And guess what, folks? My new remote control to my heater, because the old one just suddenly stopped working, also stopped working. It worked yesterday morning, and it worked yesterday afternoon, but it didn't work in the evening. So it has to go back. But this is the book, folks. Gang-Stalking and Mind Control: The Destruction of Society Through Community Spying Networks by A.K.Forward. And it's from 2011. And let me show you see, copyright 2011. Lulu Publishing. And I'll show you the table of contents. So we've got a creeping evil, mind control technologies, some insights on stalking and being stalked, mind controlled multiples, a real life example, computer spying 101, more insights into gang stalking, fighting back, the deeper understanding of this secret network, witting or unwitting, homosexual initiation and blackmail, satanic undertones, turning the tables and the index. So what I'm discovering, and this is not something I really knew well enough when I learned that I was targeted in 2017, although it's been happening since at least 2012, is that every book that I'm now reading involves the satanic agenda. Every one of them. Dr. Eric Karlstrom added this. I mean, he, I believe, is one of the first people. Then there's the T.I. Paladin, whose book I read a little bit about. No Organized Stalking. No Ordinary Stalking, I should say. And then the Gang-Stalking, a psychic possession book. The Gang-Stalking Psychic Possession book. And now this one. And there are a couple of others also. So evidently that it is a theme. So anyway, who's targeted? Me, you, everyone. We're targeted for lands, men, neuro rights, women, animals, pets, kids, intellectual property, just about everything. It's about control and power. So I'm going to read a little bit. I'm going to read the introduction to this book, The Destruction of Society Through Community Spying Networks. But before I do, thank you, Dept, for sending me a link to the grants for the COPS program. COPS is Citizens on Patrol. And we all know as targeted people, whether you're targeted or not, there is a Citizens on Patrol network in most communities these days. They operate through the grants, through the Department of Justice. And I had posted that video about the Department of Justice that I shared from another targeted person who wanted it shared. And I gave her credit for it in the comment section and in the heading. But she ended up reporting it to YouTube for a copyright violation, so I took it down. I did repost it I reposted the actual interview with the Department of Justice that I located in the community section of my channel. So you go to the main page, click the community tab, and it's right there. So now the Department of Justice is saying that they're going to be on these police officers' cases for violating the civil rights of others through some horrific events. What they're not disclosing is that some of what is happening is a direct result of the funding, the offering of grants to communities who have no vetting. Nobody is vetting where the money is going, or how it is being used, or a list of the individuals who have signed up for these programs to stalk the neighbors. I asked for it in my own community, and I never received a list of people who were involved. Why would I allow a bunch of quote-unquote community policing people to stalk the neighborhood, stake out the neighborhood without knowing who they are? Isn't it true that when you hire a private security firm, a private investigator, a private detective, they have to make their presence known to the sheriff and police department? Well, if that's the case, why isn't this public knowledge? I want to know who the people are that are policing, quote unquote, the neighborhood. I want to know what their backgrounds are. Was there a criminal background check? What's their education level? Do they have any biases? Are they prejudiced? Are they bigoted? Do they take drugs and drink alcohol? I want to know. I want to know how their policing or helping police makes the community safe. So these grants, it is horrifying. And let me pull it up here. And this is it, folks. I'm sorry for the glare. It's very bright outside here, so I'll post the link. It's the COPS program. I call them criminals on patrol. They call them citizens on patrol. I call them criminals on patrol. Okay, so as the leading community policing expert in the United States Department of Justice, we've invested over, are you sitting down, folks? $14 billion. Billion dollars in community policing since Congress established our office in 1994. We invite you to learn about the various funding opportunities, read about our current award recipient successes, and plan to apply for funding to support your community policing and public safety efforts. To receive notifications of funding opportunities and announcements, subscribe to our government delivery email updates. $14 billion in community policing. Since Congress established their office in 1994. So we can thank Congress for voting this in. And we'll get on to the book, The Destruction of Society Through Community Spying Networks, also known as the COPS program. So let's turn the page, folks. A creeping evil. There's an increasing amount of nefarious evil activity going on amongst the public body. It is often disguised as ordinary activity and coincidental events that involve people who have no apparent reason to purposely act in the way that they do. The strangers passing in the street, the tenants in the building you live in, the people you deal with at work all day, even your friends and members of your own family, each might begin to act in ways that seem suspicious, strange, often bizarre, and which result in causing you personal frustration, anger, emotional distress, paranoia, or worse. What I'm referring to is not isolated to just a few people among the population. According to the growing number of people coming forward and telling their stories, it is a problem of epidemic proportions. People are being targeted by highly organized but loose-knit network of individuals who are involved in something that even they do not seem to fully comprehend the significance of. People's lives are being tampered with or completely destroyed. And although it seems that the purpose might be for any one of a number of reasons, they all boil down to an encroaching fascist system of government where every individual in the population is to eventually be controlled completely, and where every possibility of escape is impossible. Do you hear that? The activities that this network of individuals engage in are quite varied, but they all result in displacing the freedoms and choices that a person would normally expect to have in our society. The evidence shows that this network is ultimately directed and controlled by people who have tremendous power and resources. Resources is people, connections, and money, but who purposely remain hidden and who are able to keep these activities separated far enough from themselves and disguising them well enough to not raise public awareness about what is going on, so that something might be done to stop it before it's too late. It may already be too late. Some people who report being targets of these activities claim that the lengths that the perpetrators will go through in these acts include continual abusive harassment, psychological and physical torture, and sometimes even murder. These strange activities will not be isolated events in a target's life, but will be ongoing, usually occurring regularly enough that there can be no mistake that they are not just coincidental, but very purposeful. For the person being targeted, these events will usually go on for a long time, usually for many years. And the perpetrators will often increase in their methods and persistence over time. This odd activity is commonly referred to as gang-stalking, cause-stalking, or organized stalking. And for people who have never heard of it before, it is somewhat hard to fathom both why and how these groups who stage these events can put so much time and planning into them and can organize them so well for such apparently irrational purposes, and that nobody involved is ever saying anything. The fact is, most of all of those people who engage in these activities have no idea of what extent of the network they are involved in, nor the real reasons why they're doing the things that they're directed to do, nor who is ultimately directing them to do it and why. They are usually led into these gang-stalking groups through manipulation and deceit, using their sense of morals or lack of them and beliefs to influence their cooperation. Sometimes they might even be acting without any conscious control or awareness of being involved in anything. These latter are among the ever-growing number of unwitting victims of electronic mind control. It's becoming very apparent that these groups are organized and directed by both government and corporate interests, but certainly not limited to just these. They have been known to involve church groups, Boy and Girl Scout groups, senior citizen business owners and employees, police, street gangs, drug addicts, and even homeless people. They can involve members of any and all social sectors, but at the street level, where I have personally experienced these events most commonly taking place, the involved parties seem to typically be lower income earners, drug addicts, sex offenders, homosexuals, or criminals, although the police, local business owners, and other members of the community are amongst those involved as well. The main motivation that I can see for people at the lower end of the social spectrum to participate is either a financial reward or privileged consideration by the law, but often they might take part just for the fun and excitement of it, or because they think that they're serving a good cause. Many of these people may have become caught up in these activities against their will, and many have initially been targets themselves and had their own lives ruined before being recruited to take part. The reward, no matter how small it might be, can be used as an incentive to coerce a person's continuing involvement in these gang-stalking activities. It's just a matter of knowing what a person's weaknesses are and taking full advantage of it. However, this isn't always necessary. These gang-stalking groups can develop in any situation and in any level of society where people are joined together as a group with a common cause or similar beliefs, as well as among those who are not otherwise affiliated with each other in any sort of way prior to engaging in these activities. Gang-stalking groups might be formed out of political groups, businesses and business groups, church groups, or community watch groups, just as easily as they might be formed by criminal gangs or any other groups of people or individuals that can be recruited into them. When this epidemic problem first started, those who organize and direct these activities focused on recruiting from already organized groups of people who, because of the nature of their group, could easily be influenced to engage in these activities by making the activities appear as if they were serving their cause. Thus, the alternate term, cause stalking. But things have since progressed to the point that now people are being recruited in any manner of ways, both individually as much as from within these otherwise well-meaning groups. They can include anybody at all, from the highest levels of society to the lowest. The same goes for those who are targeted as well, and the excuses for being targeted have become just as various. The earliest reported cases of targeting by gang-stalking groups were government and corporate whistleblowers, many of whom have suffered the effects of what are called directed energy weapons and mind control technologies. But these cases are unique to their situation because they have been centered around the activities of those who possess these weapons and technologies, which is what they were often exposing as whistleblowers. And so the weapons and technologies have been available to use on them. These weapons and technologies are not being used on all gang-stalking targets, and they are not in the hands of just anyone, but remain predominantly within military and intelligence circles. By far, the majority of gang-stalking activities are carried out by ordinary people through ordinary means and without high-tech gadgetry beyond what is commonly available to the public. Gang-stalking groups can be organized and directed in their operations to inflict misery upon people without the need to employ such advanced technologies. However, their application in this area is not out of the question, and they may be being integrated into these operations. One of the purposes for setting up gang-stalking groups is to simply have them monitor and report on certain individuals within the community and to see that they don't do anything that the controllers, these are sick people, folks, the controllers of these groups do not want them to do. Oh, well, too bad, you little controllers. Show your face, cowards. Let's see who you are. Let's have a chat. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Narcissists. You don't negotiate with narcissists. This monitoring often involves monitoring the gang-stalking group members as much of the targets, although the targets are usually of interest for other reasons as well. They are often targeted because they are vocal about government or corporate corruption, are not submissive to giving up their freedoms under the perceived threat of terrorism, or otherwise seen as a potential threat to the controllers and the implementation of their fascist plans for our future. Any plausible excuse that will cause a certain group of people to perceive someone as a threat seems to be enough influence the participants to recruit the group into engaging in gang-stalking activities against that person. The activities that are undertaken do not always appear to those engaging in them to be as damaging as they actually are, because the gang stalkers may not be aware of much more than the small parts that they or their group play, and will be ignorant of the activities of other gang stalking efforts simultaneously taking place against the target. The many small efforts taken by a number of different people who are unaware of each other's activities can quickly add up to serious problems for the target. It only takes someone who is in a position to be able to influence each of these participants or groups separately and direct them in what to do to create a sort of damage to a person's life that these gang stalkers' activities result in. Although these gang stalking groups are made up of people from any and all levels of society, and these people may not seem to be engaged in anything more than low-level activities for seemingly justifiable reasons, the truth is that they are being organized and directed by the highest levels of government and corporate sectors for deeper reasons than just monitoring or punishing certain individuals. Gang stalking is a means of policing the community by having it police itself, while at the same time developing the means for manipulating members of the community to think and act in ways that suit the needs of the controllers. Therefore, all segments of society being brought into these activities by one means or another in order that all social sectors are covered. It's rather insidious, folks. Very deceptive. One particular person who is very easily influenced to take part in these gang stalking activities, and who tends to take part regularly and completely voluntarily, is the more gullible and naive, but well-meaning quote-unquote do-gooder, who is more or less blind to the increasing corruption that permeates the higher rungs of society. These do-gooders are people who don't dare to question authority and will easily react to threats and intimidation. Typically, they are approached by the police and asked to assist in an investigation. They feel so honored and even proud to be able to be involved in something that they think is for the good. Since they dare not question authority, they don't ask too many questions and feel that it's okay to do whatever they're asked to do at the request of a police officer. The police know this and will tell them whatever might be necessary to persuade them to take part in these activities. This makes the most patriotic, law-abiding members of society who trust authority without question the easiest to initiate in these evil activities. This is worrisome because these are the people who most value their freedoms, and they think that they're fighting for them by engaging in these activities, when really they are helping to destroy them. Yep, absolutely. They're helping to destroy them. There are also certain groups that have been easy to recruit specifically because they trust those who recruit them and believe what they're being told about the target is true. These were the first people to be approached and brought into this network of community spies. These include neighborhood watch groups and church groups, which are usually approached by the police and asked to assist in monitoring certain people who are portrayed as a potential threat to the community. The police have established a close relationship with these groups and use them regularly for gang stalking operations. Oh, yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Gang stalking events entail a number of different harassment techniques that are fairly common among these groups, but other more innovative techniques are not out of the question. Community-based gang stalking will revolve mostly around the neighborhood where the target lives, and or their workplace, but can extend to anywhere at all that the target might go in public. Most gang stalking events are pre-planned, and many are carried out in a manner that requires an extensive number of well-placed participants coordinating their actions in a manner that creates a negative situation for the target, but which seem to anyone else like purely coincidental everyday events. But these events, these staged events, when they occur in public, are in some cases referred to as street theater because they occur in public street at the street level. But other stage events can center around the target's home or place of employment. The number of involved parties, the scope of their coordinated efforts, the type of staged events, and the length of time that these events continue reveals a deeply rooted and very sophisticated enterprise that can only be orchestrated by people with certain means that ordinary citizens just don't have. This indicates the higher sector of society that those who orchestrate these events come from. Although I focus mainly on police when I talk about the handlers or controllers of these gang stalking groups, they are not the only people that are involved in recruiting or managing the members of these groups, and they are not always consciously aware what they are actually involved in any more than anyone else might be that takes part in these activities. These gang stalking groups and their activities are directed and handled through a chain of commands, and the police are often just following orders and normal police procedures that they have been trained to do. However, there are many within the police forces and elsewhere who are corrupt and whose ideologies are completely in line with those who ultimately control and direct the activities of these gang stalking groups. Following orders without question or engaging in underhanded covert tactics to fight crime, quote unquote, are standard requisites to becoming a police officer. Those who sit at the top of the chain of command and control know exactly which people working under them are best suited for what might need to be done to facilitate these groups and their activities for the desired end results. This needs to be kept in mind when you consider how these gang stalking efforts can be accomplished without exposure of what's going on. It should also be understood that compartmentalization of knowledge is routine procedure within all sectors of the government, which is a very effective method of keeping secrets secret. This same method is also used in the business sector, in particular with those corporate entities that tend to work very closely with government or who handle sensitive information. The sort of activities that might be used against the target include slash tires, broken windows, break-ins, tampering with property, poisoning pets, random assaults, thefts, spreading false rumors, persistent noise and disturbances, bugging of residents, excessive police harassment, unexplained loss of employment, overcharging on phone and electric bills. Yeah, we just had that conversation, right, folks? Delayed or missing mail. Oh yeah, I've had my mail stolen. In fact, just aside, I ordered from Misfits Market. It was supposed to have been, and it was shipped. I was supposed to receive it on Friday. Never came on Friday. Didn't come on Saturday. Didn't come on Sunday. Didn't come today. I guarantee they stole it. It's not the first time that items that were to be delivered to my house were usually delivered to a neighbor. That's right, folks. You get to pay for it, and they'll deliver to your criminal neighbors or somebody else as a payment for their participation. Fortunately, I contacted Misfits Market and they refunded my money because the items didn't arrive. Blatant trailing, excessive staring by strangers, excessive rudeness by strangers, odd comments by strangers regarding things they should not know. The list goes on, and the activities can be much worse and much stranger. For example, it is very common for a target's home to be broken into regularly, where only minor signs are left behind that a break-in occurred, but which are significant enough to be noticed, yet not significant enough to warrant calling the police. Nothing will usually be taken, but the target may find things moved around, or they might detect the smell of cigarette smoke, or lights that were turned off have been turned on. As you can imagine, these sorts of things, if they happen with enough frequency, can lead from confusion to a state of anxiety to full-blown paranoia very quickly. A person who experiences such activity can be made to appear delusional very easily. Well, we all know that it's not a delusion, that it's really happening, folks. And you know what? The people that are gaslighting us, they know that it's not delusional either. Notification lists were initially used by the police to keep tabs on dangerous offenders such as pedophiles and violent criminals, and to warn people in the community about their presence. In the United Kingdom, this list is called the Violent Persons Registry. These lists have since been expanded in scope so that now somebody can be put on even if they are perceived as being potentially dangerous. What does that mean? Potentially dangerous. What's the definition of dangerous? Oh, that's right. When you tell the truth, it's a danger. It hurts somebody's feelings when you tell the truth. This expansion of these lists center around certain health and safety laws, which require employers and employees to report people for showing signs of threatening or violent behavior, or whatever might be deemed inappropriate behavior. A threatening look, a raised voice, politically incorrect statement can be enough to get a person listed. There is little or no oversight provided to assure that those who go on these lists and the situation that got them on there have been properly assessed, which leaves plenty of room for corruption and abuse of lists. A person who is placed on one of these lists is usually never informed of that fact, and therefore has no chance of defense. When a person goes on a list, anyone in that person's community who might come into contact with the person is notified. This can include family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, schools, local businesses. These notifications will follow a person wherever they go should they decide to move or travel. Even if when a person is removed from the list, those who have received notifications about them will continue to perceive them as a threat. These lists are used by gang stalkers as target lists. The lists provide a sense of justification for their activities, and with a little bit of direction, they can cause devastation to a targeted person's life. When someone gets listed as emotionally unstable or mentally ill, it essentially gives others free rein to torment the person, and any reaction from the person is seen to justify the label that has been put on them. These lists turn the entire community against the person, and yet nothing is ever said openly. In some cases, this silence is due to a non-disclosure agreement having been signed by those receiving the notifications. These non-disclosure agreements are supposed to safeguard the sensitive information, but the question is, protected from what? The only thing that they assure is that the targeted person never knows that they're on the list, and this is why people are treating them differently. Non-disclosure agreements are not always necessary to assure people's silence. However, And merely reminding somebody that disclosure can result in criminal charges being laid is enough to keep most people silent, even though they may want to speak up. Notification lists have become a means for turning communities into spy networks. Whether those in the community who receive these notifications belong to a gang-stalking group or not, they essentially become the eyes and ears on communication links in a network of surveillance and control. And since the police and government manage the distribution of these lists, those who are given notifications are essentially being given permission to do what they want to the person. People can get listed for being troublemakers, deviants, disloyal dissidents, mentally unstable, etc. And these labels can be applied broadly enough to distort the facts so that the character of the person is destroyed. I'm going to end here, folks. I'm still, let me see. Oh, you know what? I've only got another page and a half to go. This is the prologue, the preface. Certain organizations have also been erected for the purpose of recruiting people into community spying networks and to direct their activities. One such organization is called Infragard. Oh yeah, we know who those creatures are. They're the right arm of my favorite Bureau of Investigation. That's right, Infragard has been set up by the FBI with chapters in every state as well as in other countries. It is set up as a government-funded private corporation so that the information it has on an individual is not publicly available through the Freedom of Information Act. Oh, how convenient. It needs to be remembered that the FBI were responsible for COINTELPRO in the 60s and 70s, which was a similar program that had destructive results for many people who were unfairly targeted as subversives. COINTELPRO went beyond just blacklisting. It involves harassment, sabotage, mail tampering, break-ins, wiretaps, blackmail, which are all activities being carried out today by gang-stalking groups against their targets. Revenge for hire, folks. These organizations are very high-tech. They're capable of providing logistics and training to members and essentially giving them carte blanche license to target listed people at the behest of the government. These government-sanctioned organizations even provide GPS tracking systems for their members to locate their targets. The target will be surreptitiously planted with a tracking device, either on their person or their vehicle, and can thereafter be pinpointed. It is quite possible that these organizations also provide electronic surveillance equipment to their members. Many stage events might involve only a few people, but may include added levels of sophistication, such as the use of electronic gadgetry for spying on, harassing, and even torturing a target. With the boom in technological innovations that have been made in the last few decades, and the diversity of methods of behavior modification and mind control that have been explored by certain factions within and outside the government, particularly the military and intelligence communities, including the development of directed energy weapons, but not limited to them, the thought that such innovations are being widely tested and used on unsuspecting public is not all that far-fetched. Documents that may have been made available through the Freedom of Information Act reveal the reality and extent of these technologies, as well as the fact that they are routinely tested on unsuspecting people. Gang-stalking groups are formulated around the same concepts and the same mentalities as the KGB, Stasi, Gestapo, and similar fascist policing groups originated from, and these are exactly the same sources that current mind control methods and technologies stem from. In fact, there is a direct correlation between the older fascist policing groups and gang-stalking groups. They perform the same basic functions, but now they're operating within democratic countries. This connection becomes clearer when you begin to look at the darker history of America and the involvement of the major players in politics and the industry in the last century. So there you have, that is the preface. That is the introduction, folks. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed that. Isn't it exciting what we're going through? The first chapter is mind control technologies. So I'm going to end here. I have to get some other things done here, but I hope you enjoyed it. It's called Gang-Stalking and Mind Control, the Destruction of Society Through Community Spy Networks. It's a thin book. Let's see how many pages. Let me read the back for you, too. Secret underground lurks throughout society. A sophisticated network of secret policing groups, quote-unquote, that are cropping up in every community. It is made up of people from all walks of life who are operating as a fascist secret police force against all freedom-loving citizens of the Western world. They pretend to be serving a good cause, but they are creating terror in our neighborhoods and destroying lives one person at a time. The secret network is not only used for targeting individuals with systemic harassment, but those within it are often involved in sexual exploitation, blackmail, Satanism, and mind control. Gang-stalking and mind control is an inside look at the sinister side of this growing epidemic. It is written by a target for targets. This is the individual. And this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. I am powerful. You are powerful. And we are powerful. And they are cowards. We can operate alone, although it's better if we don't. But they operate in groups. They're a pack of wolves. They're a pack of wolves. Sometimes it is revenge for hire. Vigilante, vendetta, vindictive. That's why they write the letter V, sometimes on your personal belongings. It involves the Citizen Corp, Neighborhood Watch. Grants are disseminated through the U.S. Department of Justice. They invested over $14 billion in community policing since Congress established their office in 1994. Cops, Citizens on Patrol, funded by the Department of Justice. Who are the targets? Me, you, and everyone, including pets and livestock, the trees, the air that you breathe, the land that you walk on. Welcome all you new subscribers. My name is Lorraine. I moved from Manalapan, New Jersey, in a home I lived in for 30 years as original owner. I became targeted there by the Manalapan Police Department and other people following me since at least 2012. Now that I look back, I believe it's as early as 2009. This is for educational purposes only. I'm reading out loud portions of a book written by A.K.Forward. I hope you enjoyed this. Hit the thumbs up. Please feel free to share it. For all you new subscribers, remember to hit the notifications bell so that you're notified when I post a new video. And I appreciate everybody who is sending me links. Thank you, Dept, for that link on the Department of Justice investing the $14 billion, not million, billion dollars in community policing. An oxymoron, folks. Community policing? Oh my goodness. Criminals policing normal people. This is definitely a very Luciferian You know, it's very satanic like, because everything they do is in the reverse, right? Everything is reverse. So here we have criminals stalking innocent people. Uh, anyway, I'm going to sign off for now. We'll talk to you in the next video.